Welcome to Edge of the Rabbit Hole live stream show. Once again, I am Mike Ricksecker here with my co-host Vanessa Hogle, and we have special guest tonight, Lee Ehrlich, the Master of the Abyss, Paranormal Explorer. So, welcome guys. Really appreciate you getting onto the show tonight, Lee. And Vanessa, go ahead and say hi, of course.
Hi.
And
hi, everybody.
I want to welcome all of you guys to the chat. Shana is, I think she may already be out there, our chat shenanigator. Yes, she is. And already we've got Carrie, Jimmy, Angela, Ghostly Cowboys out there tonight. Really appreciate you guys coming out, and I know more people will be filtering in here as we go. Couple of things I want to touch on just as we are about to start here. Of course, thank you and welcome. We did all that. If you haven't yet, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel, of course. This weekend, just want to let everybody know, it's kind of last call for the watch party on Saturday in Spiceland, Indiana. If you can make it out there, we're doing the watch party for the Ghost Adventures episode that I filmed with, and Vanessa was also there for. Kind of hanging out with everybody.
I to come to the watch party.
Yeah. Carrie's actually going to make it up there. He was talking about coming up, so that's pretty cool. Thank you, Carrie, in the chat room for that. And see what else. For next weekend, or next week, next Tuesday, we'll do a recap of everything that happened there, because there's some things that we can't quite talk about that happened at during the filming. And Vanessa also has her big Virginia trip that we need to discuss, because some different things happened. Yeah, I know she's itching to talk about it too. So
we can wait though, because I'm tired.
Yeah, she broke a couple toes. What's up with that?
Huh?
I said you broke a couple toes, so you've got to be.
I am not the most graceful ballerina on the stage.
So she's probably a little doped up at the moment.
This wasn't paranormal. This was me being me. The unbelievably ungraceful total klutz that y'all know and love. I dropped I've been going to, I went to school today and did a mobile dental unit, and we have to take these big chairs that the patients lay in and fold them back down and put them in these big old bags and carry these bastards out. And I'm tired, and I had mine folded in this nice, big, unbelievably heavy metal square, and then I dropped it on myself.
Great.
Yeah, and those little piggies were not happy. We'll just put it that way.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I get to go do it all again tomorrow.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
The last thing to get into before we kick over to Lee, Ghosty.
Oh yeah.
I love it.
This is our little Ghosty. So if you haven't gotten one of these yet, this is our mascot, our Haunted Road Media mascot. Go to hauntedroadmedia.com, click on the shop button, and you can grab one of these. And we're going to be, just another thing, we're going to be doing another giveaway at 2,500 subscribers. Don't know if we're giving away another one of these or another book. We'll see. But hauntedroadmedia.com, you can get a little Ghosty. And Kat Gash had asked about autographed ones. and was like, yeah, we can do that. So when I was visiting Shana this weekend, we sat down and we autographed a few together. So that's an option too. Just let us know what you want, like a plain ghosty, or we can do an autographed one too. So that's ghosty. All right, now.
Very cool.
Without further ado, we need to welcome our guest, Lee Ehrlich. I like to call him Paranormal Explorer. He's the paranormal diver. He's done all kinds of. His adventures have been absolutely phenomenal. And Lee, I'll let you introduce yourself, because you've done so much in the paranormal field over the number of decades you've been doing this.
Well, yeah, I've done a thing or two, that's for sure. We like to make an adventure out of everything that we do. I've always been that way. So when I plan an outing or an expedition, it's got to be fun. It can be really, really creepy, but of course, creepy is fun to all of us, right?
Well, yeah, of course.
So,
creepy cool.
Yeah,
is what I call it.
If it's cool, if it's creepy, if it takes us someplace interesting, and it's just one step beyond where we've been before, that's where I like to go. I like to be surprised, and I like to come across things and places that I've never experienced and other people haven't experienced as well. So that's what it's all about to me. Poking around on the other side of the bushes and trying to figure out what's on the other side.
Yeah.
There literally are things on the other side.
Oh, definitely.
And, that's for sure.
Yeah,
So,
you've investigated and explored in places that the normal everyday person doesn't. And I know you've talked about some of your paranormal experiences down into shipwrecks underwater, and to me that's just absolutely fascinating. And it's kind of almost the norm for you.
Yeah, I've morphed a few things together that I actually normally do. I'm a scuba instructor, and
Right.
I'm a wreck penetration diver as well, so I'm in a lot of shipwrecks. And I'm in and around them, and of course I'm a paranormal investigator on land as well as in the sea. So I morphed it all together. I figured, well, here I am, and what's kicking around this place that I'm finding myself in pretty regularly.
Right.
So, things were tapping me on the shoulder, so to speak, in shipwrecks for years. And, we'd get back on the boat in that really cool moment when everybody's talking about the dive. There's always that post-dive chat where everybody just can't wait to tell you what happened to them. Because you've got like a half hour to an hour of silence when everybody's down below. So everybody's experiencing things. And nobody has the opportunity to tell anybody else about it, unless you're using comm masks, which not everyone has.
Right.
And so, and we don't conversationally speak down there anyhow. We just speak in sort of like military speak just to keep the mission going. But, less chatter. But anyhow, when you come back on deck on the boat and everyone pulls off their gear and starts just spilling out these experiences like, oh, this happened to me, and this happened to me, and this happened to me, that's when you start hearing all the cool stuff that you didn't realize went on a half hour ago. And so, everybody's got that thing where they heard somebody talking when there was nobody in the room, or something tapped them on the back of the head, or they saw this glowing light deep down in the shipwreck that shouldn't have been there. And we all get together and chat about that as we're, drying ourselves off and getting ready for the next dive.
Right.
So, there's always that, you have to take what we call a sit. It's basically your hour surface interval time. That's what sit means. So when you're doing your sit, you've got nothing to do but sit there and just off gas. Nitrogen is coming out of your cells, and that's all you're going to do, right?
Right.
So you talk. You eat, you talk. You get a sandwich, those kind of things. You hydrate, and that's when we all talk about what happened to us. And that's when the stories abound, where people are saying, yeah, that happened to me. Something tapped me on the shoulder right in that doorway, right before the boiler room, or I saw a light on this. I thought that was you, and I didn't want to think it was a ghost, so I just looked to the left instead of the right. And, So yeah, that's how it works. You hear about it when everybody gets together around the campfire, kind of.
Yeah, and we already have a question from the chat room about down there under the water. Shana would like to know, do you record underwater as well, and do you have any EVPs from down in some of those wrecks?
Yeah, we have a lot of EVPs. They're really neat. They're pretty crisp because sound travels about 5 times faster underwater than it does on land, so it has a different acoustic signature, and it hits you quicker and sharper. And yeah, we've got some great ones. We've got sonars that fit up into air pockets where you can actually sort of reanimate voice that's been echoing over for years. It's sort of echoed away into nothing. And what we're doing is we're reanimating those voices, giving them a little bit of boost, so to speak, and trying to scare them up as best we can. And we've been very successful.
Now, what do you mean by reanimating? How are you doing something like that? You're saying it's bouncing around in there for years for the viewers that don't know from that type of methodology. Kind of what are you referring to here?
We're shocking them. We're electronically shocking them back into motion. Just the way electricity seems to add to paranormal activity, the way ghosts will actually drain your batteries when you're investigating.
Right.
We've all had that happen a million. It's a daily thing. Well, it's nice. What people don't realize is you don't necessarily have to wait for the ghost to do the energy grabbing. You can give the ghost some energy.
Hmm.
And no one does that but us. I mean, I'm proud to say we're the only team on Earth that gives the ghost energy. In fact, Mike, as you know, when we're at Goldenrod here in a few weeks, to that place up, we're going to get...
Yeah, you're talking about that.
We're going to get a little power into the hull, and we're going to see if it comes around. And, it's kind of like when someone has a heart attack and you defibrillate them and you just add a little bit of spark and get things going again. Well, we're doing that with spirit voice. We're doing that with with ghostly voice that we hear. It's pretty cool.
Never considered that, and I don't think you either, Mike. It never occurred to me that because I'm always like, well, here, take a little bit of my energy. I'm okay with that, but to actually, I don't know how you do it, but submit energy into the environment artificially in order
to shock them.
I've never even considered that option.
Yeah, you shock them. Well, when you think about it, that's what's happening. Like, let me give you a scenario. A lot of times, have you guys noticed where you'll walk into a haunted house or home or building, and the setup guy who's rolling out the cord, that person has an experience before the investigation begins. There's always that story about,
oh yeah,
well, like the guy shows, he's setting up the cameras and something happened. Well, that would happen to me too. Something happens on the walkthrough, but nothing happens throughout the rest of the day or the evening when the investigation's taking place. So I started thinking, well, why is it that something is happening as soon as someone enters the room? And I believe my theory held water. What I figured was this. You walk into a place, and a lot of times, like, the curtains are drawn, the drapes are drawn. Sometimes these old houses we're in might have tar paper over the windows. You know how they do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what happens when you reach your hand back behind the curtain and all your hair stands on end? Like, you can feel the electrical charge. Right, well, what happens is that the curtains hanging in front of a window with sun beaming down on them all day long, it actually creates a solar cell. The photons and the electrons that comprise those, that energy, are stored in that dead space between the curtain, drape, and window. And then what happens is, when somebody comes in the house to do the setup, and they swing the door open to walk in the front door, it sets off a little bit of a breeze, and those curtains wiggle, and the electrons flow out into the room. And the ghost that's in the room grabs a hold of this energy and manifests in voice or touch or whatever it is that it might want to do, sound. But then, just that like a little tiny toy sailboat that doesn't have enough wind to make its bell ring, it sort of just lies flat again, waiting for another boost of energy. And it can oftentimes take hours or days to rebuild that photon charge. And sadly, when we're there at night, there's no recharge whatsoever. Which seems to be why a lot of times we go in a room, it's haunted during the day, you get kind of a good investigation, and then next thing you know, the family goes back and it's haunted the next day. It's like it recharges itself.
Yeah, I've always found that kind of funny how a lot of paranormal investigators insist on investigating at night, and there's some decent reasons to do so. There's less noise pollution, and you have a little bit more control over any type of shadowing effects and things like that. But a lot of the reports that you get from people of the hauntings that they've experienced have been during the day. A lot of these, like if it's a historical location, the museum curators, they're working there during the day, and that's when they're having their experiences. And so I find it funny how some people are very strict, have to investigate at night, and it's like, no, paranormal activity happens any time of day.
Well, you're absolutely correct on that. This is the only thing I'm going to say right now until we discuss this on a different show. But I don't know how. I would love for somebody to explain this to me. When we were out this past week, we had an experience in the middle of the forest. I'm talking 100 acres of forest on one property owner's land. There is no electrical wires anywhere. I'm standing in the middle of a marsh. It's a marsh, and our millimeter spiked to 8.7.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you know why?
0.7. Tell me.
Because of the composition, because of the sulfurous composition of what you were standing on.
Well, we were standing on Indian burial ground.
Yeah, oh, of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, it's a lot of energy.
A ton.
Oh, yeah.
But it only did it for a second.
Well, yeah, because, that's the power doesn't last forever. It takes a lot to generate that kind of power. So it builds it up and lets it loose, and then it's got to recharge again. But that's cool. That's super cool.
I've never seen a millimeter go up that high. Within an eighth of a mile, we had an 8.7 and a 5.2.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Wow.
Crazy. It's like geophysical energy that they release. It's amazing. Or they use that energy and they release it. Wow.
Yeah. I have to ask you, with the diving, because again, when we talked when you were on the radio show that Mike and I had, I was utterly fascinated because it never occurred to me to do paranormal investigation underwater. Never occurred to me. And what I would love to know is, and I'm not even ashamed to admit it, never entered the noggin. In all of your underwater explorations, have you ever found that a particular area of the world or the ocean or whatever, that it seemed to hold more than another, or is it just in how you're able to pull them out?
Oh, well, I believe certain areas do have a lot more activity. Warmer areas are much, much, much more active than cold areas. And it's probably for whatever physics there are that govern paranormal in general. Because as we know, summer haunts are the best. We have winter activity, and we all, we've all experienced it. But we professionals, like we three, we know that during the winter, you've got to work for your dinner. It's not a free meal, that kind of thing. It's like fishing. It's a slow bite, and you've got to work that bite for one or two fish in the wintertime, and paranormal is the same way. When it's cold, everything is sort of just tamped down and waiting out the freeze, so to speak. And with paranormal underwater, it's the same way. When the water's cold and there isn't as much electron transfer and there aren't as many photons available for energy, things are a little bit dormant. And then when you get into a warm time, especially here in the Gulf, where the water is super salty, because it's really, really, really salty here. Holy cow. When it's hot and it's salty, wow, is the activity ever spiked. It's just everywhere. And in the wintertime, it's flat as a pancake. It's like you show up and you're like, good grief, And here's a weird thing too. You can feel the difference when you walk up to the water. You can see a difference in it. And it's the same, it all correlates. Whether or not there's going to be paranormal activity can also be determined by whether or not the fish are biting.
Ah,
now I know you probably say, now this is a lot of science to this. Here's the thing. You'll catch fish, like bass fishing, for example. You'll catch fish right up to a certain day, and then all of a sudden they just get lockjaw. It's like something happens. Of course, there's reasons for this. The barometer affecting them and whatnot.
Sure.
But they go into a hibernation phase, like when their lateral lines sense a coolness or a coldness coming. They actually go into that sort of a hibernation phase where their metabolism goes down, and they're not in an active feeding mode anymore. In fact, if you're going to get them to take a bait, you actually have to anger them into biting. You have to hit them in the head with the darn thing. It's that kind of thing. So,
yeah.
Ghosts are the same. When the bass go to sleep, so do the ghosts. There's a direct correlation. I see it out here in the backyard. We live, there's water everywhere. I walk out back, there's largemouth bass in my backyard. Sure enough, when those suckers get lockjaw, I'm not going to get any EMF in the forest, which I generally will, in certain places. All of my happy little hidey holes where I'll scare up ghosts out in the woods, kind of witchy spots like you were just discussing where the burial spot is, flat and dead, nothing. And it's the same thing. It's like I can't get arrested, There isn't a bass to catch, there isn't a ghost to scare up, there's nothing. And it all starts at the same day. Like they all get the memo,
Right.
And we started to notice a difference with that, and I hate to bring up this because I know people are on the fence on it, but with climate change and the season's kind of taken a hit. Have you noticed that it's different? That like you'll have a lull where you don't get anything, and then the season changes unnaturally for whatever reason. Get a warm spell in the middle of winter when you shouldn't have one, and kaboom. Have you noticed any change in that?
I have. Well, I noticed that this year in particular, Florida, I live in Florida. Florida isn't as affected as the rest of the country, but there are slight changes in the environment that you can notice. Spawns, animals coming around in the springtime, the birds and the bees, those kind of things, right? Well, last year, there was this early birds and the bees period where, like they always talk about, winter's not over till it snows on the dogwoods. You've heard that? Well, at least they say that in California. Anyhow, this last year, winter seemed over quicker, way faster. Like this year, for example, there wasn't much of a winter at all, even though our winter is like your spring. But there's been activity throughout the year. It's like things didn't get cold enough to freeze them out. So yeah, it's heat is important, but it's not just heat, it's energy. Because remember, why do the trees go dormant? Why does the grass stop growing? Because there isn't as much energy available for growth, right? And then when the sun is out higher and longer during the day in the spring and summer, there's more available energy, and lo and behold, all these places we love to go become hotly haunted again. Coordinating with those phenomenal haunts that we all know and love, where it's like 4th of July, and it's just hopping. You know how that is? Something about it. Magic. It's magical. I don't know. I love it. I'm a summer ghost hunting.
Oh, no, I definitely prefer the summer. Got another question from the chat room. This is from Shana again. And Gwen kind of, she pretty much fielded it in the chat room, but Lee, I want to get your take on it as well. Kind of backing up again to when we were talking about, basically feeding spirit's energy. And the question was, I'm trying to back up here a little bit. How is that affected? And I have to back up way too far, but how would that affect like residual energy? So, like, let's say you have an intelligent haunt there that's using that energy to do its thing. How would, if you were to, like, I don't know, we're talking about charging the showboat when we're out there next month. Say there's some sort of residual energy there, some residual haunt. How is charging that area going to affect it?
Well, I think that what it's going to do is it's just going to give it a little bit more to work with. It's going to give it some elbow room. It's going to give it a little bit of just a little bit more energy. It's going to take it and invigorate it. It's going to increase its ability. Like what I'm thinking of doing, something we mentioned, but actually more so. I'm going to wire up a very, very, very low wattage bulb, extremely low wattage, about the lowest wattage that I can find. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire that into a lamp cord, just a standard lamp cord. That would ordinarily be 110. Of course, this little tiny bulb could maybe come on with, a tenth of a watt, that kind of thing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug it into an electrical receptacle somewhere in the boat. And then down the line from that electrical receptacle, I'm going to attempt to ground the wire to the hull. So that any energy created within the hull can go down that wire and light that bulb. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to try to kick that thing in the loins and get it to charge that bulb and make that little tiny ember glow inside on that filament. And if we can get that filament to glow, that ship's alive.
Yeah.
And it's going to be cool.
That would definitely be very, very cool.
I have a question. Just because you're talking about, the protons and everything else, and the kind of pulling the energy in and being able to filter it out, this would not apply in water, but on land. Have you ever considered, granted this is ions, but have you ever considered using one of the salt lamps to see if you can give a particular type of energy to a location to maybe make communication easier?
Yeah, I think so. The salt lamp being, sodium, you've got, it's half of the pump. It's half of the pump that life uses. We're potassium-sodium pumps. That's how our cells work. Well, by adding that sodium, you're just adding 1/2 of what's necessary to make things tick. And so with the underwater, there's already so much salt in the water that adding, it's actually to the point of saturation, actually, right? So, or just one bit below. Adding salt to it doesn't really change anything underwater because it's already so darn salty it doesn't matter. Which is why I think that underwater, especially saltwater haunts, are great because they're charged. There's a lot going on down there, and lots of minerals, lots of stuff, and you can taste it. Lots of stuff in the water. And you don't taste that in fresh water. And because of that, freshwater haunts are really stale. They're not the same. You've got to have something metallic in the water to bring these freshwater haunts about. In saltwater, you can have an ambient haunt, like something's kind of floating by. But in freshwater, they kind of stick to objects. like a train that crashed off the trestle, or a boat, or a boat that sunk or something. They're bound to the element in the boat itself. And I think in freshwater, if you were to bring some type of salt down there, it'd probably help out. Yeah. But in saltwater, unfortunately, there's so darn much of it that it would be a drop in the bucket. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Oh, very cool.
But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. I do want to throw out a couple of shout outs to people that have been joining the chat, and I'll throw you guys up here real quick. Diane has joined, Tammy, Emma, of course I mentioned Gwen earlier, Steve Curry, thank you. And I know we had a couple of others. We'll do more shout outs later, but I wanted to go ahead and recognize you you guys for coming out here. Really appreciate all the interaction, and I know Shana is doing a fantastic job of driving the chat there, our shenanigator. All right, Lee. Something I want to, we have to talk about, of course, is your book. Master the Abyss. It's been out here a few months now, and it's doing pretty well. I keep seeing you post photographs of people that are holding up the book, either with you or on their own or what have you. So, let's talk a little bit about the book. Maybe tell some of our viewers who were not with us the last time that you were on when we did the radio show, a little bit about Master the Abyss and what they can expect from it.
Yeah, well, no, that's great. Well, of course, my book is called Master the Abyss, A Journey into the Unknown. And there are several stories, many stories actually, that are held together by a common link, but most of all, they're adventures. They're paranormal adventures. They're adventures about creatures and oddities that I've come across over the years that are just amazing. Everything from the monster in the basement, for real, to a giant sea monster that we chased in the waters off Catalina Island. And it's just amazing. I took 30 years of investigating and my life prior as a child, and I made a compilation of stories. I shared a compilation of stories in the book, stories that were near and dear to me, things that were unbelievable and so remarkable that they needed to be shared. So what I've found is a lot of folks who have read the book have come back to me and said, I had that experience. I saw that thing. That happened to me when I was little, those kind of things. And I touched on things in the book where a lot of people wouldn't even talk about. Just something that you would think, my gosh, I must either be losing my mind or I don't know what, but I just saw something that I can't explain. So I shared that in the stories, and people have been loving it. And it's been received very, very well, and I hope you guys grab a copy because you'll love the stories in it. They're fast-paced. They're just like me. They hit the ground running and they don't stop. So I'm really excited about where it's going. It's been out a little while, and I still haven't done what I call go public with it because I've just been so busy. I've been so busy with these adventures that I've been doing, and I've been putting together so much neat stuff for the book. I sort of got this grand opening in the wings that I'm really excited about. And so, drop by Amazon and Kindle and grab yourself a copy. It's Master the Abyss, A Journey into the Unknown, and you'll like it. The stories will make you laugh. They'll make you cover your head at night.
Yeah.
And they'll definitely make you cover your head at night. And I love it. I love it. So it's been great. Of course, Haunted Road Media is to thank for all of this. Mike did a great job of publishing the book. Thank you, Mike.
Well, thank you for asking me to do it. It was a great honor, really. It was.
Mike is amazing.
Great.
He doesn't get enough credit. He's an amazing,
it's great.
amazing publisher.
Well, I'll tell you something. I know, and I rave about him all the time. He's my go-to guy. I knew I wanted Mike to do this, and I got to tell you guys, one of the million things I've been doing is we're making television commercials for the book, and they're fantastic, and I know I've been talking to Mike about this forever.
I can't wait to see them.
Wait, it's the kind of thing where your vision just takes a fork in the road. Next thing you know, it's twice as visionary. Those kind of things.
Right. I
So
know how that
at
gets.
any rate, the funny thing is the commercials for the book have taken the same road that writing the book have taken. You start out wanting to say this, and then someone says, well, what if we did this? And you're like, oh, geez, it's got to be. We can't do it without that. That kind of thing. And then you add in this scene, and you add in this scene, and you yank in a deleted scene, and you stick something in the middle, and then it finally comes together, much like the book did, where, if it wasn't perfect, I wasn't going to write it.
Yeah.
And then when it's like you've done the last brush stroke on the canvas, it's ready. But I gotta tell you guys, got some fun stuff coming up. So much fun stuff. I've been working tirelessly, and there have been so many things going on. I finally had to say enough with the exploring, enough with the investigating. I just got so dang many things to do, and so many pots to take off the stove and make dinner with that I finally sat down to do that. So it's going along real well. Everyone who's read it has liked it, and it's 5 stars across the board. So get yourself a copy and let me know what you think.
Yeah, definitely go grab a copy. I mean, just reading it when I was going through it and formatting the book and everything, I was absolutely fascinated by the stories and just knowing your history of writing the book, because you were putting it together when you and I first met, what was it, over 5 years ago now? Maybe 6 years ago, something like that. And you were talking about it back then, and it's and I know from this, it's a journey, and people will toss things out there all the time, but for you and the path that you've taken, and the journey that you've taken to write the book, and now like you're talking about with the commercials, to me that gives it a lot more substance. There's a lot more of your heart that's in it when you're on that journey to put something like this together.
You're right, Mike. And I tell you this, with the book, I feel like the book is it's like a vehicle, and I'm the driver. And so the book is, I have plans for the book that go beyond just putting it out on the market, those kind of things. I like the book to sort of come, I want to have a little bit of a personality that's moving the book down the road, so to speak. And so I'm as involved in making my vision come true with the book as I have anything else. Sharing it with people and sharing it with a larger audience in such a way that it's really dynamic, where the people say, well, holy cow, that was really fun. That was so much fun that I just can't wait to read the book. Those kind of things. So I've got a whole lot of fun coming up here. And of course, you're probably thinking, well, it's a scary book. How can it be fun? Well, you can laugh at yourself.
It's an adventure. That's how it's fun.
You can be, you can laugh at the irony of life and all those kind of things. And but yeah, I plan to kind of stick around as a living narrator along the way. And but yeah, Mike, you're right. The journey, when I first met you, there were things I wanted to write, but I wanted to make sure that they were done properly. I couldn't rush it. And as an author, I mean, 10 times better than I do, both of you guys do, of course, that when you write chapter 1, and then you write through the whole book, by the time you go back to chapter 1 to read it, you look at it and you go, who wrote this garbage?
Right.
You're like, because by the time you're at chapter 5, you're 5 chapters better of a writer than you were when you started.
Oh, definitely. I always tell people when they ask me about writing, I just write. Just keep writing, and you'll improve your skills and read.
Yes.
Yeah, Agreed, yeah. Now, I'll tell you something. One thing I did for the book, and I know that there are authors who've done this as well, I've actually placed myself in the situations I was in the stories, and I've sat there with a recorder and I've dictated my emotions into the recorder. You know, like when you're standing in the dark on the side of the road, what do you smell? What do you see? How does it feel? You know, how's that? There's that cold air coming up behind you, but the road feels warm. You know, those kind of things. There are emotions, and there are like trigger points that we all recognize that we don't even know are there. Like that rustling in the bushes when you're changing a spare tire. Those kind of, you know, when you're changing a flat tire, you know, those kind of things.
Yep.
You know, you're changing the tire, but something's back behind you rustling in the bushes, and that's all you care about, right? And so yes, those emotions that I tried to intertwine into the book, that I believe I did. So when you guys read it, you know, it's not a ghost hunter book. It's a complex journey of creatures and experiences that are quite global. So you'll enjoy it a lot, that's for sure.
Now, you just said something, and that leads me into a very quick question, and I won't shut up. You've said creatures a couple of times, and I have a very specific question. I would love to know, and as I'm sure our viewers would, how has your experience coming face to face with particular creatures, be it on land or underwater, how has that changed your viewpoint on how you see things in life? I mean, I'm speaking from experience here. That's a big deal, and a lot of people don't realize exactly how that affects you.
Well, you're completely right. You know, I've seen some things over the years, and I've seen some things that I would have rather not seen because they scare me to this day. I've seen some things I couldn't explain. I've seen some things I pretended I didn't. And I've seen some things that explain a lot. And I'll tell you this. When I see things, I look at them in a very analytical way. You know, I'm not a person who sees a monster and screams and runs. I'm not a person who sees something out of the corner of their eye and then tells a story later that they extrapolate on and tweak and twist. When I look at a creature, I know what I'm looking at. I know if it's feline. I know if it's a dog. I know exactly what I'm looking at. You know, if it's a Bigfoot type of thing, it's, you know, I know what I'm looking at. And so, in my experiences, I've found that a lot of the stories in regard to what people have seen are flawed. Because their vision or their view of something was generally over their shoulder, or it was actually for less time than they care to admit, and there's a lot of extrapolation and there's a lot of filling in the gaps involved. Now, the things I've seen the chupacabra. I've seen what would be considered a dogman, the beast of Bray Road. I've seen sea monsters. I've seen what they call Bigfoot. Okay, and I saw them through a very sober eye. And, you know, sometimes it's not necessarily popular to demystify certain creatures. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of these things are flesh and blood. They're misinterpretations. The stories of their existence are misinterpretations of the truth. You know, there's things running around out there that are animals that, you know, there are hairless variants of animals. There are animals with alopecia where they lose all their hair. There are animals that have some of their hair but not all their hair, which changes gives them a little bit of a different look. And so with cryptids, you know, you've got to be careful of what you're looking at. Now, that takes us into the realm of non-cryptids, i.e. things that would be considered otherworldly. I've seen these things too. And what creeps me out about it is, and Mike knows, like you guys know from reading the book, like the Thumping Man, which is a monster in my book. I'd have thought it was crazy had I not seen a picture of the Thumping Man done in a woodcut image in an old grimoire that my friend Mike's brother got his hands on back when I was about 12 years old. Now, it's considered a demon, or it's considered, it's called a demon. Who knows what it really is?
Sure.
Or where demons come from. But it's called a demon. And I saw one of these things. And so it's weird, how, it would have been different if I'd have seen the picture and thought, ooh, that was scary. But I've been walking around all these years wondering if this thing was ever going to come back, and then it's staring at me from the pages of a book. And so, it's warped my sense of what's really going on out there. Vanessa, it's like when things go bump in the night to me, they're scary things. It's not just a dog poking at the fence post. It's not just a cat scratching at the window. I've seen things you don't want to look back at. And every darn time I've seen these things, it's been one step beyond where everybody goes. Like I said, the other side of the hill, the other side of the fence, down the road yonder, back in the holler, those kind of things. You always bump into these things when you've taken a walk a little bit too far. And, sometimes that walk could even be your basement at 2 o'clock in the morning, especially when you're a 6-year-old boy. It doesn't have to be far in distance. Sometimes it can be far in almost in concept. And then again, people ask me, well, how do I get to see all these crazy things that you've come across? Well, you've got to go where people don't go, and then you got to go farther. You got to go farther than that guy who went there and told you the story. You got to find what he found, and then you got to go look beyond it. That's where you have to look. Because, back in the day, there were monsters all over the place. When I was a little kid, when I was raised in the early 60s, there were sea monsters swimming around. There was the Yeti walking around up in the mountains. There was Bigfoot, he was doing the Bigfoot wave and all that stuff. Yeah, Nessie, all these things. They were there. But if you kind of noticed, with the encroachment of civilization, not only have the stories diminished, but these things have kind of gone away too, right? So, if you're looking for something that used to be around in the 60s or 70s, you got to look farther into the brush. Way beyond where the hunters roam. And you got to go. You usually got to go alone. And so, that's my take on it all.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you're doing that, you're really searching for the original truth. People have reported experiences. There are people that had started investigating it. There's the old legends, and so essentially what you're doing is talking about digging for that original truth. Really diving into the research and doing that really really deep type of investigation. It's really an exploration on another plane to me.
Well, one thing a lot of people don't talk about, and I want to know if Lee and yourself might feel the same way. We all talk about how monsters can scare us. We know that. I mean, that's kind of the general consensus. But what I have found in my experiences, and I think Gwen, who is in the chat room, can agree with this, that's not the frightening part. The frightening part is when you come face to face with something who looks at you with interest and compassion and almost as a comrade.
Oh yeah.
Very, very, very frightening. That to me is more terrifying than something coming at me in anger or trying to scare me. When they look at me almost as not as an equal, but you understand what I'm saying.
Well, that's what Master of the Abyss is about.
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's what Vanessa, you're so right. That's what Master of the Abyss is about. it's about going, my journey into the abyss, and somewhere along the line fitting in.
Yes.
Yep.
Now I'll tell you this, yeah. Sometimes I wonder if I'm the monster.
Thank you.
And yeah, I wonder about that too, because I feel very, very comfortable in their presence. And
a lot of your descriptions, Lee, it's like you're almost just hanging out with these entities.
Well, it's kind of weird, well, you have to look at it this way, I guess. Everything is scary to something. A fuzzy little house cat is scary to a mouse, right? And and my big ferocious German Shepherd, is scary to most people. Those kind of things. But the truth is, it's just a big fuzzy lunk of love, that kind of thing, right? So even like a grizzly bear or a lion or a tiger can be, they're not, other animals aren't afraid of them. They all hang together. So, yeah, I think that some of these things, remember, everything is born into what it is, right? Everything, one day it becomes self-aware and, hey, I'm a cat, I'm a dog, I'm a demon, I'm a ghost, or maybe not a ghost, but you know what I mean.
Right.
You're born into a role, right? So these things, even though it's a demon, one day it just kind of became one. Like, whoa, like it doesn't know any better. That's what it is. It just is a demon, right? So when I bump into these things, I'm kind of looking at it like that. Like it's, it's no more wrong for being a demon than a house cat is for being a cat.
Right.
And, and if it's, and I kind of give everything an equal chance out of the gate, You leave me alone, I'll leave you alone, and we'll all kind of coexist with one eye open, that kind of thing.
I'm so glad it's not just me that feels that way. Thank you for that.
No, you're welcome. No, you're not. Well, you've read Master of the Abyss, and there was a time, essentially, to these things, I'm a killer. I'm an assassin to these. That's what these things consider me. And so, is that a good thing to be? I don't know.
Oh, it depends on your point of view.
It's my role. It's my role with them. They notice to keep their distance, and so, I think that in some ways we're scarier to them than they are to us.
Hey, Lee, we're starting to wind down toward the end of the show, so I do want to talk a little bit about upcoming events. In a few weeks here, April 15th, we're going to be together with Chris Sutton in Alton for an event, book signing event at It's Raining Zen. So that's in Illinois. And then, of course, you have the Paracon that you've been working on putting together. I guess it's in August now. And that's going to be at the Putnam Inn. Am I saying it right?
Yes, the Putnam Lodge, actually.
Putnam Lodge, okay.
Yeah. Well, there are a lot of conferences coming up across the country this spring and summer. In fact, between now and I'd say October, I've never seen so many. There's been this renaissance of conferences and quality ones too that many of us are going to be attending. So I know that coming up here at in Alton, and we're of course going to be at the Goldenrod Showboat. I'm basically kicking off the season with that. That's like the season opener, and I'm really looking forward to it. And then I know that myself personally, I'll be in Buffalo. I'll be in New Jersey. I'll be in I'll be in Ohio. I'm going to be all over Texas, right. California, Louisiana, all over the country with book signings and conferences that I'm doing. And they're sort of growing like a fungus, which is a really neat thing. And then of course there are going to be book signings at all of them. In fact, I'm just a few weeks away from absolutely positively knowing that these dates are really happening. Making sure there's enough sales and this and that. And of course, when that happens, on the Master of the Abyss A Journey into the Unknown Facebook page, I'm going to have listings of all of these different signings. And, you know, of course, hopefully Mike will be able to join me on several of them.
I hope so.
Of course, that's, you know, that'd be great. So now, also, too, I'm going to be up at the Hinsdale House and as a paranormal diver, and we're going to be doing, it's going to be for television, and we're going to be doing an underwater exploration of the aquifer that runs under the Hinsdale House.
Yeah, you're talking about going into that. That should be really interesting.
Yeah, so, you know, got a small team of divers going up there. As soon as the thaw is good, you know, until as soon as the snow's off the ground, basically. Right. And you know that's going to grow into something crazy. And lots of other stuff going on. You know, I have to kind of rein it in because it's all going to turn into a slurry. You know, I've got to pick and choose my battles, so to speak, because there's a lot of them coming up right now. So
yeah, you don't want to double book yourself.
Well, yeah, you don't want to do that. But you know what? This year there's going to be, you know, I've been so busy with things, you know, such as the book and other things. Yeah. There hasn't been a lot of time for diving. There hasn't been.
Awesome.
And so, you know, got the big boat in the water coming up this weekend, and we're going to be out in the water a lot more, and, you know, running a whole bunch of new sonars, updating the website a lot with all of the new paranormal diver stuff we're doing.
Good.
And, of course, it's all kicking off with the book signing with Mike and myself in Alden. So, really looking forward to it. And all of the updates on book signings and everything, including the commercials, which are just going to floor you guys.
Yeah, looking forward to those.
Is going to be, that's the spring and summer. You know, I really think, you know, my whole goal is viral. You know, it's all about going viral, and it's going viral. It's gonna be viral. Because it's so preposterous.
You gotta let me know if you get close to Oklahoma, because I'll drive my happy butt wherever you are if you're within 6 hours to come see you.
Well, I'll be up near there. There's I know that right now, you know, there's 3 New York gigs. There are a couple of Midwest things coming together, and I'll be back in Colorado. Which how far is Denver from where you live?
It's a minute. It's about 10 hours.
Okay, it's a little far, yeah. But no, there's a lot of places, and there's a lot of people nipping at the bud to get me out to California again in southern and northern Cal. So there's a lot going on. You know, I think it's when Mike and I sit down, especially Mike and I, because you know we you know, our plan is to do a lot of these different shows together. Yep. When we sit down when we're at the Goldenrod, we'll have a chance to talk over everything.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Kind of look at what happened. And then Vanessa, you're just going to have to hang with us.
I'm going to have to. Hey, my little Hyundai accent will get up and go.
There you go.
Okay.
Well, got you all the way to Virginia.
Yeah. I drove straight through from Virginia home.
That's a hike.
You know, when we were talking about your situation in Virginia Beach, I was just thinking, why the heck aren't you down here in Florida?
Well, we're going to make it there. We're going to make it there because there's a wolf sanctuary I want to go to there.
Okay.
So,
well, come on down, because I've been harping on Mike about this for ages.
Oh, I know. How many times have you asked me to come down to Florida now?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you guys real quick.
And we'll drive there together. Okay.
There you go. We'll have to grab Shana, too.
Of course. Y'all come here, and I'll drive you.
Well, I'll tell you guys, we've got on the 11th of August is the Florida's Lost Coast Paracon, which is going to be, no question, it's going to be Florida's best Paracon ever. And for several reasons. My friend Chris Moon and I are putting this on, and it's always a great show when Chris is involved.
Yeah.
But I stumbled across a haunted site that's like no other. It's locked in time. Nobody knows about it. Nobody's been there. Nobody's investigating it. It's absolutely virgin. And the first night that I stayed there with my case manager a few weeks ago, we saw a crystalline entity. It was like a glass. It looked like a person made out of glass. It was amazing. I had footsteps walking around my bed at night. I woke up and there was someone standing next to me. They looked like an ice sculpture. but perfectly crystalline see-through. And in their matrix of this makeup, you could see like atoms flying back and forth. Like electricity inside of this person. It was bizarre. We were there this weekend. I just came back 2 days ago. Or
Yeah, I've seen a lot of your clips that you've posted on Facebook. I mean, it looks fantastic. You've told me a lot about it, and I cannot wait to get down there.
Where is this Paracon going to be?
It's going to be on Florida's Lost Coast. It's in the Panhandle, the northern Panhandle. In a place amazing.
Okay, so you said the Lost Coast, Florida?
Well, I'll give you all the details on it.
Okay.
But, there's a link to it on my Facebook page, the Lost Coast Paracon, and it's going to be amazing. Everything about this place is amazing. It just crawls. There's a little dog ghost in the room. We've got evidence of it. Heard it breathing into the microphone. You can hear its little feet going pitter-patter. Lots of people feel it jump up on the bed at night. It's kind of cool. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, that'll be a great one. But we do have to wrap it up. We've hit our hour. So and we could keep talking all night, I think. Lee, you've got a lot of great stories. Really, thank you for sharing them tonight. And Vanessa, thank you for hanging in there. I know you're exhausted from the last several days, and now your foot. So hope that heals quickly.
Well, hey, I'll tell you this real quick. Vanessa, we'll get you down here for the conference. Mike, we'll do it.
Okay.
We'll get her down here.
All
right. Hey, thank you, everybody.
Yeah, Lee, again, thanks for coming on. I do want to give some shout-outs to the people that have been in the chat. Again, a lot of great interaction there. So, of course, Shana, Carrie, thank you, as always, for being out there. Angel, Luli, I know Diane's been out there. Who else? I know Jimmy was in there earlier. Go back a little bit here. Steve again. And I know Emma was out there earlier. Tammy, thank you. And who else do I need to hit up? I think I already said Angel. And yeah, Gwen was in there earlier, but she had to bail a little early. So yeah, I really appreciate everybody coming out to the show. And Lee, as always, great having you on. We'll have to have you on again because there's so much more to talk about.
Well, I really appreciate you guys having me on. And I'll tell you this, I really appreciate you guys letting me talk about things other than paranormal diving.
Yeah.
Because while it's fascinating and stuff, there's a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I mean,
so
you have so many fantastic adventures and experiences, and diving's a part of it. We touched on it a little bit because you are pretty well known for that. But feel free to talk about whatever you want because your adventures, your ideas, just some of the concepts that you're talking about. Just watching the chat go by, everybody was really fascinated by what you had to say. So appreciate that.
Well, great. Well, thank you, and thank you all, and thank you all for coming out to the chat room. And I'll talk to you guys soon.
What's the website they can find you at?
Okay, well, you find me at we've got all pure Facebook now, so you can go to Facebook Paranormal Divers. Or you can go to Facebook Lee Ehrlich, EHRLICH. Or you can go to Facebook Master of the Abyss, The Journey into the Unknown. There's 3 ways to get a hold of me. So hop on there and grab yourself a book and say hi. That'd be great.
All right. Thanks, Lee. Thank you, my friend. And thank you, Shana, for the chat. And Vanessa, as always.
Great seeing you guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.